Hi, Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Thought we'd talk today a little bit about mastery and the path of mastery. The first time I was exposed to what I think was a master of some kind of physical art, it was when I was in my mid-20s. I was in New York, and a friend of mine took me to a sushi restaurant in upstate New York, this fantastic place, and the chef was so amazing. I mean, every single dish was fast, and it looked like a scene from a Japanese movie. Like, it was so amazing, and I was just watching this guy work, and I remember thinking, man, I could just drop everything and learn how to do something like this. And that was a new experience for me. Up to then, I hadn't done anything that really took much hard work. I was doing music at the time, and it was largely just doing things that came easily, that really weren't that much struggle. But when I saw this, I thought to myself, boy, I can really understand why a person would drop everything to learn something, a skill like this. And that just kind of went into the back of my mind. And a few years later, when I quit music, one of the many times I've quit music, and moved out to the coast, I moved out with my girlfriend at the time to the San Juan Islands up outside Seattle. And I started thinking about what I wanted to do for a living, and I decided to learn something physical that I really liked and teach it. I mean, it might have been naive on my part, but that's what I decided to do. And I found a good yoga teacher, and I found Andy Dale, my Tai Chi teacher, and I started massage school. And shortly after seeing and meeting Andy, I just was in love with Tai Chi. I just said, man, I don't care what it takes. I want to be able to move like that. And I practiced like a madman, and I went to every single beginning class that Andy taught for 5 years, even as I was going to more advanced stuff. I started teaching at senior citizens centers about a year into my practice, so I was learning how to teach, and I was practicing Tai Chi and learning Bagua and Xingyi, and I started doing contact improvisation dance at one point, and I was doing low-flying trapeze work, which is like very good for the arms, and doing all this stuff. At one point I was practicing or teaching or taking a class about 7 or 8 hours a day, five days a week pretty much. So it was a pretty obsessive time, and I was very much focused on this idea of becoming a master of this someday, like mastering this. And yet at the same time I was getting kind of burned out and kind of tired and kind of feeling like, man, I want to get out of the city, and feeling just tired all the time. And finally I just had to accept that the path that had felt so right to me was just not feeling right anymore. And so I stopped doing the trapeze work. I put everything off my plate, contact, Bagua, Xingyi, Tai Chi, everything sort of off the plate. And then I decided to slowly put back on the plate, one after another, things that I really cared about the most. And hope you can hear me over that chainsaw back there. But I love Tai Chi, so my Tai Chi practice was the first thing that I put back on the plate. And I began thinking about my dream of being a master of this, and I felt really sad, actually, because I realized that, especially when I looked at people like Andy and Dave Harris in particular, that mastering the martial art applications of Tai Chi was just beyond me. Not only was it something that I didn't feel like I had the talent for, but it's also something I just didn't have the interest in to practice at that level. I liked martial arts, and I liked partner work, and I loved applications, but to go to that level where you could really use it, and at higher speeds and intensity, I just didn't have that fire. And I felt sad about it, because I thought I had to give up my dream, you know. So around this time we left the city, and I was living in a small rural town in Iowa, and sort of sorting out my life, and I decided that I could still be on that path of mastery. It's just that I had to focus on it in a different way. I decided to focus on mastering the basics of Tai Chi. I decided to focus on integrating the principles of Tai Chi into my whole life. I decided to focus on teaching and being the best teacher that I could be. And eventually moved here to Ashland and started teaching in a different way than I was teaching before, doing mainly private lessons instead of lots of classes. And the big shift was that I decided to focus, instead of on how high up the path I got. Or to use another metaphor like target shooting, instead of focusing on how many times I hit the bullseye or how close I was getting or how good a shot I was compared to other people, I decided to focus instead on what I was aiming for, and just being a person who was consistently aiming for the things I was aiming for. Focusing on being on the path rather than how far along the path or how high up the path I was getting. And this was like a revolution to me. I felt so much better, and I feel so much better, basing my self-esteem, my sense of accomplishment, my sense of myself on what I aim for, and on just being on the path, and on the rewards of a life that's lived on that path, instead of on how good I am at it, how high up I go. Because, you know, there's always someone higher. Nature does better Tai Chi forms than I ever will, and writes better music than I ever will, and we're all going to end up dust anyway. It doesn't matter how high up on the path you go. But if that's your karma, and you're achieving, and you're climbing that path, and you're focused on excellence, and you're thinking about how other people are doing, that's great, go for it. But if you're feeling miserable doing something you love because you're not good at it, or not better at it, or not as good as other people, and I know a lot of people in the music business who write great songs, but who are miserable because of where they are status-wise and the climb up that hill to fame, I would suggest trying to look at it this way, and just look at the path that you're on, and just aim for excellence, but focus more on the aiming than on whether or not you hit it. Because the cookies will come. You will hit the target more often. The same thing I do with teaching. Like when I'm teaching, my students demonstrate a form and they're nervous about how well they're doing, and I go, I'm not looking at how well you're executing this. I want to see what you're aiming for. If you're aiming for the right thing, then I know the hits will come. You'll get it. You'll hit the bullseye more and more, and you'll achieve what you want to achieve more and more. But I just want to be sure you're aiming for the right thing. If my students are aiming for the right thing, then I feel good. Because I love the life that I live, and it's based on just aiming for balance, harmony, Tai Chi, flow more, force less, these kind of things. So just some ideas to encourage you to think about as you practice. You know, you might want to focus more on just being on the path, just aiming for what you're aiming for, and let the cookies, let the rewards, let those bullseyes come as they will. And not worry so much about how high you are on the ladder and how good you are, because, you know, there's always somebody better. There's always something better. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of things. I do lots of music videos, nature videos, and Tai Chi videos like this. And visit my site if you're curious. There's more information there, www.geneburnett.com. Thanks for watching.